Hello, this is Dr. Mercola, and you may not be aware of this, but the bacteria in your body outnumber the cells in your body by 10 to 1. Yes, there's 100 trillion bacteria and only 10 trillion of your cells. Now, that may sound like an enormous difference, and it is, but because the bacteria are so much smaller than your cells, they don't take up as much volume or space, and they only really comprise a few pounds, mostly in your intestinal system. Now, you may not also be aware of this, and many physicians aren't, that your digestive system is responsible for about 80% of the functioning of your immune system. And it's not only your immune system. Your mind and your mood are largely controlled by the functioning of your healthy gut, because the majority of the serotonin produced in your body is produced in your gut, not your brain. So that's why there's some credence to the term gut feeling, because your gut truly is a second brain. Now, what are some of the simple strategies you and your family can do to make sure that you're optimizing the health of the bacteria in your colon? Because as I said, they outnumber you 10 to 1. So you want to make sure that you're growing good, healthy bacteria. And in many ways, growing is a good analogy because it's very similar to a garden. And in a garden, of course, you're going to have weed killer and fertilizer. Well, let's talk about fertilizer for a minute, because you obviously want to nourish the good bacteria and you want to diminish the growth of the bad bacteria, or the fungi or the anaerobic bacteria. So one of the most powerful and potent strategies you could do is to eliminate sugar and foods that convert to sugar very rapidly. Fruit juices, even artificial sweeteners. What these will tend to do is they act as nourishment or fertilizer for the bad bacteria, the anaerobic bacteria, the fungi, the yeast. The bacteria that should not belong there in abnormal concentrations will definitely cause you problems and will diminish your body's ability to produce proper neurotransmitters and to optimize your immune system. So you want to stay away from sugar. That's probably the single most important strategy that you can do, is eliminate sugar from your diet. It's a simple strategy, somewhat challenging to implement, but it's very powerful, very profound. Now, the other component is you want to have plenty of good vegetables, because vegetables are, and highly unprocessed organic vegetables free of pesticides, because those serve as fibers, and which are really literally prebiotics. These are sources of nutrients that will feed the good bacteria, and actually as they're broken down and metabolized, they have breakdown metabolic products that actually serve as weed killers for the bad bacteria. So really, the foods that you're eating are some of the most profoundly powerful tools you can use to modify and change that ratio between good and bad, because it's a very powerful predictor of how healthy you're going to be. Now, additionally, you can eat foods that are influenced with large numbers of good, friendly bacteria. And these are rampant through a wide variety of cultures throughout the history of the planet, and they are typically fermented foods, foods that have been cultured with different bacteria and grown, and then when you eat these foods, they tend to grow and reproduce in your system. Now, let me caution you and discourage you strongly from two of the most commonly perceived fermented foods, which is yogurt and kefir, that are typically commercially available in most every grocery store. You really want to stay away from virtually every commercially sold yogurt and kefir. It's because it's really not a type of food that's going to nourish your good bacteria. In fact, it's the exact opposite type of food. Why? It sounds remarkable, because if you look at some of the marketing campaigns, or even look at some nutritional texts, you'll find that cultures from Russia and Eastern Europe, where they use these types of food, have actually believed to contribute to their great longevity and health and good health. So why wouldn't it work here? Well, the devil is in the details, and you really need to look at how that yogurt and kefir is prepared commercially in the United States. First off, the starting material they're using is pasteurized milk, which is clearly something you want to avoid for many reasons I've discussed before. Pasteurized milk is not a good starting product. But then it gets worse from there. They're typically put in sugars, or worse yet, artificial sweeteners that will actually cause the bad bacteria to grow, let alone the good, suppressing the growth of the good bacteria. And then the bacterial cultures they put in there are in such small quantities, and they're so short-lived that you're virtually getting no good beneficial bacteria. So stay away from commercial sold kefirs and yogurts. You can make your own. It's a bit more cumbersome process, but you'd have to find raw organic milk and then use the appropriate culture materials. There are many recipes for doing this online. Just type it in Google and you'll find out how to do that. So I'd strongly recommend you consider doing that if that's one of your things. But you can use other easier approaches and look at some of the commercially prepared fermented foods and from different cultures. Sauerkraut would be one example. Miso, kimchi, olives, pickles even. Aside from fermented foods, there are some other important considerations that you need to be aware of to optimize the growth of your good bacteria. Now, we already mentioned one of the most important, which is eliminating sugar because of its significantly negative destructive influence on the good bacteria in your gut. But one of the other ones is to make sure that you're not taking antibiotics unless you absolutely need them. Now, of course, they can save your life, but I would say, from my experience, over 90–95% of the people taking antibiotics don't need them, and they're just causing more harm than good. So be really careful, be very prudent when you seek to use this, and make sure you absolutely need it. The other thing is to make sure that you're drinking pure, clean water. You do not want to drink chlorinated water. Chlorine is in the water. Why? To kill infections. Thank God it's there. It sterilizes, it sanitizes the water so that we don't get dysentery or some other diarrhea-producing illness that could potentially kill us. So I'm very grateful for the sanitized water as opposed to the water that's available in many third world countries. However, once it's done that function and we have clean water that's disinfected in our home, it doesn't serve any other purpose. It's just going to kill good bacteria in your system and increase your risk for cancer by producing cancer-promoting chemicals like disinfection byproducts and dioxane and really elements you do not want in your system. So that's a big component. The other is the soap you're using. Do not use antibacterial soap. It has a toxic chemical, triclosan, but it also is antibacterial. So if you get any of that in your system, it's going to tend to kill the bacteria in your colon. You clearly want to use organic produce, organic vegetables, organic pretty much everything. And why is that? Well, the pesticides that they put on these foods are there for a purpose, to kill organisms, to kill fungi or pests, and they can clearly kill the bacteria in your gut, aside from having the direct toxic influences, which of course accumulate over time and can really cause significant health problems for you. So only purchase organic food. Would be another key element. Now, it's important to understand that many health experts, including myself, because in our clinic, when a patient comes in, we routinely recommend to almost every patient that they go on probiotics or good bacteria, because I think it's essential. In many cases, more essential than taking a multivitamin. And many health experts are coming to that conclusion because it has such a crucial role in achieving optimal health. And so many of us are exposed to the factors I just mentioned that's really hard to maintain an optimal food. And so many of us are not taking the fermented foods. So that is a key issue. So then you're left with the choice of, well, how do I identify a healthy brand? Well, let me give you some key principles that you can, and guidelines that you can use. First of all, I would recommend avoid getting the enteric-coated probiotics. Now, that they are good from the perspective that they will improve the likelihood that you'll be able to swallow them and you'll have the bacteria make the transition through your stomach, which has a high acid and tends to kill some of these bacteria, into your intestine where they can perform their function. So the point, though, is that you're going to pay twice as much to have that benefit when it's unnecessary. You can merely purchase a probiotic that has what's digestive resistant, acid resistant, bile acid resistant strains, and 97% of them will make the transition into your intestine, providing you're making sure that you take it at the right time. And the timing is really crucial here. You want to take probiotics on an empty stomach because their pH is closer to neutral at that point, and it's less likely to damage them. So take them at least 15–20 minutes before a meal. Don't want to take them with meals, don't want to take them after meals, because that's going to be a really important point. Now, the other issue is that you want to make sure that you're purchasing from a reliable, trustworthy manufacturer. Why is this so? Well, it should be your approach for any supplement that you decide to do, but particularly for probiotics, because there was a study done recently that looked at 55 different brands of probiotics, and what they found was that only 13% of those brands had all the organisms they claimed and all the strains that were in that bottle, only 13%. But here's even more shocking. Fully 1/3 of them had no live strains at all. So it was literally a roll of the dice that you were getting what you thought you were getting. And that's not good. I mean, you're paying attention, you're trying to do your due diligence and really provide your body with some benefit, yet in a large number of cases you're purchasing from a company who's not providing with any benefit at all. So that's a key. The other components, you want to make sure that you have no magnesium stearate. I've talked about magnesium stearate before. Some people give me some challenges with it, but it is typically an agent that's added to prevent the raw material from caking and so it can circulate well through the machinery and be inserted into either capsules or compacted into tablets. So it has no functional benefit. It's just there to allow the manufacturing to occur. And there is some suggestion that magnesium stearate may actually contribute to some challenges with creating this biofilm in your body. And it's best not to have it there if at all possible. So I would get one without magnesium stearate. That's an important principle that you really would benefit from looking at. And then, of course, you want to look at human strains. Ideally, all the strains in there should be human strains. We recently upgraded the company that manufactures our probiotics so that we can improve it, because we're always in the process of seeking to even provide you with a better quality, higher quality product. And in this case, we actually selected a company that was really a leader and innovator in the field. And you may have heard of us talking about the number of bacterial strains in a unit. And that is usually referred to as CFU, or colony-forming units. Well, this is the company that actually created that designation and really brought it to the industry. In addition to that, they were the first to introduce dairy-free, gluten-free, wheat-free, corn-free, and non-GMO probiotics. And lastly, they're first to introduce nitrogen packaging to improve stability and reliability. Now, these are all factors that lead us to actually offer the highest quality number of strains. And in fact, we've increased the guarantee on the number of bacteria that are in a serving from 66 to 70 billion. Yes, there's 70 billion, but interestingly, that's guaranteed for 2 years if you leave it out of the refrigerator for 2 years. Now, normally, it's better to put it in the refrigerator because you will have more, but the company actually puts in more than 20% extra. So they actually put in closer to 90 to 100 billion because if you leave it outside, there's going to be a normal number of bacteria that will die over the time frame, but still after 2 years at room temperature you'll still have 70 billion there. But if you leave it in the fridge you'll have significantly more, 20–30% more. So I regularly recommend and encourage you to consider using a probiotic supplement to help improve your gut. Hopefully you'll consider that, because it's a great resource for you and your family to take control of your health.